Drummerly.com Unlimited Drama Series.
The smell hit me first. Expensive perfume clinging to the guest room pillow at 3 in the morning. Not Lila's usual scent. Something darker, more desperate. I stood in the doorway of our supposedly unused spare bedroom, insomnia having driven me from our marital bed where my wife lay sleeping like an angel, or a snake. Hard to tell the difference anymore. Couldn't sleep again, Evan. Lila's voice drifted from behind me, silk pajamas rustling as she appeared in the hallway. Even at this ungodly hour, she looked perfectly composed. HR directors probably practiced that look in the mirror, the one that said, "I'm in control and you're not." "Just checking the house," I replied, not turning around. "Funny thing about this pillow, smells like someone's been resting their head here, someone who wears Chanel No. 5. You're being paranoid again." Her tone carried that familiar edge of irritation mixed with something else. Guilt, maybe. I had Danielle over yesterday to discuss the Henderson account. She must have taken a nap. Danielle, my wife's sister and the head of HR at Morrison Tech, where I'd worked for the past 10 years as a technical systems manager. Where I'd worked until last Friday, when they'd suddenly decided my position was redundant. Convenient timing, considering I'd just started my 2-week vacation. Right, Danielle. I finally turned to face my wife of 12 years. The same Danielle who signed my termination papers while I was supposed to be relaxing at home, planning our anniversary trip to Cabo. Lila's perfectly manicured fingers tightened around her phone. Even in the dim hallway light, I could see the screen glowing with unread messages. That was a difficult decision for the company. Budget cuts affect everyone. Everyone except you, apparently. Funny how the HR director's husband gets axed right before a major project bonus payout. I stepped closer, noting how she instinctively stepped back. Funnier still how my severance package mysteriously disappeared from the final paperwork. Her phone buzzed. Once, twice, 3 times. She glanced at it, and for just a moment, her mask slipped. I caught a glimpse of something that looked almost like panic. "It's late, Evan. We should discuss this tomorrow." "Should we? Because tomorrow I'm supposed to start looking for a new job, while you continue climbing the corporate ladder, with your dear sister's help." I paused, letting the words hang in the air like smoke. "Tell me, Leela, who's been texting you at 3 in the morning? Another work emergency?" She clutched the phone tighter. "You're being ridiculous." "Am I? Then show me." For a long moment, we stared at each other across the narrow hallway of the house we'd bought together, renovated together, planned to grow old in together. The silence stretched until it became almost unbearable. Then her phone rang. The name on the screen made my blood turn to ice water. Brandon Cross. Brandon Cross, the Golden Boy strategic consultant who'd been circling Morrison Tech like a shark for the past 6 months. Brandon Cross, with his BMW and his perfect smile, and his habit of working late with the HR department. Brandon Cross, who was calling my wife at 3:15 in the morning. "Don't answer it," I said quietly. She answered it. "Brandon? No, it's fine. He's just—" "Yes, I know. Tomorrow at the usual place." Her eyes never left mine as she spoke, and I realized with crystal clarity that my marriage had been over for longer than I'd suspected. "No, he doesn't know anything. Yes, I'm sure." She hung up. "So," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "Brandon Cross, the usual place. Should I assume this isn't about quarterly projections?" "Evan, listen." "No." I held up a hand. "I'm done listening. I've been done for a while, actually. I just didn't want to admit it to myself." I turned toward the stairs. "I'm going to make some coffee. Seems like sleep isn't happening tonight." "Where are you going?" I paused at the top of the stairs. "Nowhere, Lila. That's the problem. You and your sister made sure of that." I looked back at her one last time. "But here's something you might want to remember from all those HR seminars you attend. Every contract has an exit clause. Every single one." Her face went pale. "What's that supposed to mean?" I smiled, and it felt like the first genuine expression I'd worn in months. "It means I'm about to become a very thorough reader." My basement workshop had always been my sanctuary. Power tools, half-finished projects, and a desk where I kept all our important documents in meticulously organized files. Leela used to joke that I was obsessive about paperwork. She wasn't laughing now. At 4:30 in the morning, surrounded by the smell of sawdust and machine oil, I spread my Morrison Tech employment contract across the workbench like a battle plan. 12 pages of legal jargon that I'd signed without reading 10 years ago, trusting that the company had my best interests at heart. Trust. What a quaint concept. My phone buzzed with a text from Marty Sullivan, my old army buddy who now ran a small private investigation business and a boxing gym downtown. Marty never slept much either. Too many years of military discipline. "You up? Saw your office lights on from the street?" I texted back. "Basement. Reading contracts. Marriage might be over. Coming over. Put coffee on." 15 minutes later, Marty's familiar knock echoed through the house. I let him in through the back door, noting how he automatically scanned the kitchen and hallway. Old habits from our deployment days. "Lila asleep?" he asked, following me downstairs. "Probably texting her boyfriend." I handed him a mug of coffee and gestured to the contract spread across my workbench. "Tell me what you see in Section 15. Marty pulled on his reading glasses, a concession to age that he hated, and studied the document. His finger traced the lines slowly, his expression growing more interested with each paragraph. "Well, I'll be damned," he muttered. "Evan, you beautiful lucky bastard." "What?" "Section 15.3. Involuntary termination during scheduled vacation time." He looked up at me with something approaching admiration. "Did you know about this?" "I'm starting to suspect I should have. If an employee is terminated during pre-approved vacation time, the company owes them 10 times their annual salary for each year of service, payable immediately." Marty set down his coffee with a sharp clink. "You've been there 10 years. Your salary is what, 90,000? I did the math in my head and felt the world shift slightly on its axis. $9 million. $9 million that your soon-to-be ex-wife can't touch if you file for divorce before claiming it." Marty grinned like a wolf. "Evan, my friend, they just handed you the keys to the kingdom. There has to be a catch. Only one. You have to file the claim within 72 hours of termination." He checked his watch. "Which gives you until Monday morning." Oh, I stared at the contract, reading the section over and over until the words burned into my retinas. A exit clause, buried in legal language, probably inserted by some long-gone lawyer as protection against corporate abuse. A clause that Danielle, in her rush to eliminate me, had completely overlooked. "Marty, I need a favor. Name it. I need surveillance on my wife and Brandon Cross. Photos, locations, times, everything, already on it." He pulled out his phone and showed me a series of photos taken with a telephoto lens. Lila and Brandon entering the Westin Hotel. Lila and Brandon in his BMW outside an expensive restaurant. Lila and Brandon kissing in the parking lot of Morrison Tech. "When did you take these?" "Last week. I've been watching your back since you mentioned things were getting weird at home." Marty's expression grew serious. "Evan, there's more. Danielle and Lila have been planning this for months. I have audio recordings of them discussing how to free up Lila's options and eliminate Evan's financial leverage. They planned the termination? They planned everything. The affair, the job loss, probably the divorce papers too." He handed me a small digital recorder. "Listen to this." I pressed play and heard my wife's voice, clear as crystal. "Once Evan's out of Morrison Tech, he'll have no choice but to accept whatever settlement we offer. Brandon's already agreed to help with the legal fees, and Danielle can make sure he never works in tech again. He'll be lucky to find a job managing a hardware store." Danielle's voice responded. "What about the house? We'll force a sale. I'll get half, plus alimony. Brandon and I can buy something better in the suburbs, and if Evan fights it, he won't. He's too proud to air our dirty laundry in court, and too broke to hire a decent lawyer. This will be over in 6 months, and I'll be free to marry Brandon." I stopped the recording and sat in silence for a long moment, processing the casual cruelty in my wife's voice. 12 years of marriage, reduced to a financial transaction. When was this recorded? 3 weeks ago, Vera's bar, Thursday night. They thought they were being discreet. Marty finished his coffee. "So, what's the plan?" I looked at the contract again, then at the phone. Photos, then at the recorder. A plan was indeed forming in my mind, not just for revenge, but for justice, the kind of justice that would leave them exactly as broke and humiliated as they'd intended to leave me. First, I'm calling Jerry Hoffman. I need the best contract lawyer in the city. Jerry owes you from that divorce case you helped him with last year. He'll take the case. Second, I'm filing that claim on Monday morning. With interest and penalties, we're looking at close to $10 million. And third, I smiled, and this time it felt dangerous. Third, I'm going to give my wife and her sister exactly what they deserve. They want to destroy my life. Let's see how they handle having their own lives turned inside out. Evan, be careful. Revenge is a dish best served cold, but it can burn the chef if you're not smart about it. Don't worry, Marty. I learned a few things in the Army about strategy and patience. I folded the contract carefully and placed it in a secure folder. Besides, they made one crucial mistake. What's that? They assumed I was stupid. Monday morning arrived gray and drizzling, the kind of weather that matched my mood perfectly. I dressed in my best suit, the charcoal gray one Lila had bought me for our 10th anniversary, and drove downtown to Jerry Hoffman's law office. Jerry was waiting for me with coffee and a predatory smile that reminded me why he'd never lost a contract dispute in 15 years of practice. Evan, my friend, you've just handed me the most beautiful case I've seen all year. He gestured to the Morrison Tech contract spread across his mahogany desk. This exit clause is ironclad. Whoever wrote this knew exactly what they were doing. Can they fight it? They can try, but the language is unambiguous. Involuntary termination during pre-approved vacation time triggers automatic penalty compensation. Jerry leaned back in his leather chair. The fact that your wife's sister signed the termination papers actually strengthens our position. It establishes a clear conflict of interest. What's our timeline? I've already prepared the filing documents. We can submit them this morning, and Morrison Tech will have 48 hours to respond. Jerry's smile grew wider. Of course, we could make this very public. File in open court. Notify the press. Make sure everyone knows how Morrison Tech treats loyal employees. Do it. There's one more thing, Evan. I took the liberty of researching Brandon Cross's consulting contract with Morrison Tech. Jerry handed me a thick folder. Turns out Mr. Cross has been billing the company for services that weren't actually performed. Hotel rooms charged to Morrison Tech that coincidentally matched the dates and locations where he was meeting your wife. I opened the folder and felt my pulse quicken. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, even charges for jewelry, all billed to Morrison Tech as client entertainment expenses. Brandon had been using company funds to finance his affair with my wife. This is embezzlement. It's certainly billing fraud. The kind that gets consulting contracts terminated and professional licenses revoked. Jerry stood and straightened his tie. Ready to go ruin some lives? Morrison Tech's headquarters occupied 3 floors of a gleaming downtown office building. I'd walked through these doors every workday for 10 years, but today felt different. Today I wasn't an employee. I was a weapon. We took the elevator to the executive floor, where Danielle's corner office overlooked the river. Her secretary, a nervous young woman named Beth, looked up in surprise as we approached. Mr. Rourke, I thought you were, I heard that I was terminated? Yes, Beth, that's why we're here. I gestured to Jerry. This is my attorney, Jerry Hoffman. We're here to discuss my severance package with Danielle. Beth's face went pale. I'll let her know you're here. Through the glass walls of Danielle's office, I could see her on the phone, gesticulating wildly. She was probably calling Lila or maybe Brandon. It didn't matter. Nothing could stop what was about to happen. She'll see you now, Beth whispered. Danielle sat behind her desk like a queen holding court, her expression carefully neutral. She'd always been the more calculating of the 2 sisters, the one who planned 3 moves ahead. Today, she was about to discover that I'd been planning 2. Evan, this is unexpected. She barely glanced at Jerry. I thought we'd settled your employment status last week. We did. That's why we're here. Jerry placed a thick legal document on her desk. Notice of claim under Section 15.3 of the Morrison Tech employment contract. Involuntary termination during pre-approved vacation time. I watched the color drain from Danielle's face as she read the first page. Her hands actually trembled as she turned to the financial summary. This can't be right. $9.7 million? Principal amount, plus interest and penalties, as specified in the contract. Jerry's voice was professionally pleasant. The same contract you signed on behalf of Morrison Tech when you terminated Mr. Rourke last Friday. But we don't have this kind of money in the budget. That's not our concern. The contract is clear and binding. Jerry placed another document on her desk. This is a copy of our filing with the county court. As of this morning, Morrison Tech has 48 hours to respond or face additional penalties. Danielle's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID, probably the CEO, and let it go to voicemail. There has to be some mistake. This clause was never meant to apply to situations like this. Situations like what, Danielle? I leaned forward slightly. Situations where you conspire with your sister to destroy someone's career and marriage? Situations where you abuse your position to help your sister's boyfriend embezzle company funds? Her face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Jerry opened his briefcase and produced the folder of Brandon's billing records. Brandon Cross, strategic consultant. Hotel charges, restaurant bills, jewelry purchases, all billed to Morrison Tech as client entertainment. He spread the receipts across her desk like playing cards. Funny thing is, the dates match perfectly with surveillance photos of Mr. Cross with your sister. You've been
She left this in your apron. You didn't even throw it away. You forgot a woman's lipstick in your...
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
watching us? We've been documenting fraud. I stood up, towering over her desk. Did you really think you could destroy my life without consequences? Did you think I was too stupid or too broken to fight back? Danielle's phone rang again. This time she answered it. Yes, sir. No, sir. I understand. She hung up and looked at us with something approaching terror. The CEO wants to see all of us in the boardroom, now. The boardroom was a monument to corporate power, floor-to-ceiling windows, a conference table that could seat 20, and walls lined with awards and photographs of Morrison Tech's greatest achievements. Today, it felt like a courtroom. CEO Robert Morrison sat at the head of the table, flanked by the company's general counsel and chief financial officer. His expression was thunderous as we entered. Mr. Rourke, Mr. Hoffman, he gestured to chairs across from him. I've reviewed your filing. This is quite a substantial claim. It's a substantial breach of contract, Jerry replied smoothly. Your HR director terminated a 10-year employee during pre-approved vacation time, triggering penalty clauses that were specifically designed to prevent this exact situation. Morrison turned to Danielle, who was sitting beside the general counsel, looking like she wanted to disappear. Miss Hayes, can you explain how this happened? The termination was a budget decision. We needed to cut costs, and Evan's position was redundant. During his vacation, the timing was unfortunate. Morrison's jaw tightened. Miss Hayes, do you understand that this claim represents nearly 15% of our annual revenue? Do you understand that paying it will require us to lay off 60 employees and cancel the Henderson project? Danielle said nothing. Furthermore, Morrison continued, our investigation into Mr. Cross's billing practices has revealed significant irregularities, charges that appear to be personal in nature, billed to company accounts. He slid a document across the table to her. Charges that you approved as his HR liaison. I watched Danielle's career implode in real time. Her face cycled through confusion, fear, and finally resignation as she realized the magnitude of her mistakes. Mr. Rourke, Morrison said, turning to me. This is clearly a difficult situation for everyone involved. Is there any way we might reach a settlement that doesn't bankrupt the company? Jerry and I had discussed this possibility. The nuclear option versus the surgical strike. Actually, Mr. Morrison, there is. I leaned forward. I don't want to destroy Morrison Tech. I've worked here for 10 years, and I have friends who depend on their jobs here. But I do want justice. What kind of justice? Full payment of the penalty clause. Miss Hayes' immediate termination for cause, with forfeiture of all benefits and severance. Cancellation of Mr. Cross's consulting contract and referral of his billing irregularities to the district attorney. And a written apology, published in the company newsletter, acknowledging that my termination was improper and malicious. Morrison looked at his legal team, who nodded grimly. Done. None of. The news of my windfall spread through Morrison Tech like wildfire. By Tuesday afternoon, everyone in the building knew that Evan Rourke, the quiet technical manager who'd been unceremoniously fired last week, had just walked away with nearly $10 million and the scalps of the HR director and her boyfriend. I celebrated at Vera's Bar, a dive establishment 3 blocks from Morrison Tech that served as the unofficial watering hole for office workers and blue-collar locals alike. Vera herself, a 60-year-old former bartender from Boston, had been pouring drinks and collecting gossip for 20 years. She knew everyone's business before they did. Evan Rourke, you magnificent bastard, Vera slammed a whiskey in front of me as I walked through the door. The whole neighborhood's talking about what you did to those corporate sharks. Just collected what was owed to me, Vera. Bullshit. You destroyed them, and everyone knows it. She leaned across the bar conspiratorially. Danielle Hayes came in here yesterday afternoon, drunk off her ass, crying about how her career was over. Apparently, word's already out in the HR community. No one will hire her. Is it, though? Vera's eyes twinkled with malicious glee. Because your wife was in here Saturday night with that pretty boy consultant, planning how they were going to spend your money after the divorce. Real touching conversation about how you'd never see it coming. I sipped my whiskey and felt the familiar burn of alcohol and satisfaction. Speaking of Lila, has she been by recently? Not since the news broke. But Brandon Cross was here this morning, looking like someone ran over his dog. Vera pulled out her phone and showed me a social media post. Seems like his consulting business is having some difficulties. The post was from Brandon's company Facebook page. Cross Strategic Consulting is temporarily suspending operations pending resolution of legal matters. We apologize for any inconvenience. Legal matters. Turns out billing fraud is a felony when it involves amounts over $50,000. Vera refilled my glass. Your lawyer friend Jerry's been busy. Filed complaints with the state licensing board, the Better Business Bureau, and the district attorney's office. Jerry's thorough. Jerry's a shark, and you pointed him at the right targets. Vera glanced toward the door as it opened. Speaking of targets, Lila walked in, and the entire bar fell silent. She looked around nervously, clearly uncomfortable in the blue-collar environment, before spotting me at the bar. Evan, I've been trying to reach you. Have you? I've been busy. I didn't turn around, just watched her reflection in the mirror behind the bar. Celebrating? Mostly. We need to talk. Do we? I thought we covered everything the other night. You know, when you were taking calls from your boyfriend at 3 in the morning. The bar was listening to every word, and Lila knew it. Her face flushed red as she realized she was providing entertainment for a room full of strangers. This isn't the place for this conversation. Actually, it's the perfect place. I finally turned to face her. See, Lila, these people understand loyalty. They understand what it means to work hard and get stabbed in the back by people you trust. They appreciate justice. Justice? You destroyed my sister's career. Your sister destroyed her own career when she decided to abuse her position to help you cheat on your husband. I stood up, and the bar patrons shifted slightly, forming a loose circle around us. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? You're being vindictive and cruel. I'm being fair. You wanted to leave me broke and humiliated while you ran off with Brandon Cross. Instead, I'm rich, and you're dating an unemployed felon. I gestured to Vera. Another round for everyone. We're celebrating divorce. The bar erupted in cheers and laughter. Lila stood frozen in the center of it all, finally understanding that she was no longer the predator in this situation. The house is in both our names, she said desperately. You can't just— Actually, I can. I pulled out a legal document and handed it to her. Divorce papers. I'm keeping the house, the cars, and my pension. You get to keep your clothes and whatever's left of your dignity. This isn't legal. I'm entitled to half of everything. You're entitled to half of everything we accumulated during our marriage. But my Morrison Tex settlement happened after I filed for divorce. It's separate property. I smiled at her shocked expression. Jerry's very good at timing. Lila looked around the bar, searching for sympathy or support, but found only amused faces and raised glasses. These weren't her people. These weren't the polished corporate climbers she was used to manipulating. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything to you, Lila. You did this to yourself. I raised my glass to the room. To my ex-wife, everyone. May she find exactly what she deserves. The bar roared its approval as Lila fled toward the door. She paused at the threshold, looking back with something that might have been regret or might have been rage. This isn't over, Evan. Yes, it is. She left, and the bar erupted in celebration. Vera poured another round, and someone started playing Take This Job and Shove It on the jukebox. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely happy. My phone buzzed with a text from Marty. Saw the news about Brandon's arrest. Billing fraud and embezzlement. Thought you'd want to know. I showed the text to Vera, who cackled with delight. Evan Rourke, you beautiful, vengeful son of a bitch. You didn't just win, you destroyed them completely. Not completely, I corrected. Not yet. Thursday morning brought unexpected visitors to my front door. I was enjoying coffee on the porch, reading news reports about Brandon Cross's arrest. when a black sedan pulled into my driveway. Two men in cheap suits got out, the kind of men who worked in corporate security or collections. They approached with the confident swagger of people who were used to intimidating others. Evan Rourke, the taller one, flashed a badge. Private investigators, working for Cross Strategic Consulting. We'd like to ask you some questions. About what? About your harassment of our client, Brandon Cross. About the surveillance you conducted on him and your wife. About the malicious prosecution that led to his arrest. I sipped my coffee and studied them with amusement. Brandon hired private investigators to intimidate me? How's that working out for him, considering he's in jail? Mr. Cross made bail this morning. He's prepared to file charges against you for stalking, harassment, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Conspiracy to commit fraud? I laughed out loud. That's rich, considering Brandon's the one who embezzled $50,000 from Morrison Tech. The shorter investigator stepped forward aggressively. We have evidence that you planted false documents in Mr. Cross's files. Evidence that you fabricated the surveillance photos used to destroy his business. Do you now? I stood up slowly, letting them see that I wasn't intimidated. And where exactly did you get this evidence? That's confidential. Of course it is. I pulled out my phone and dialed Marty's number. Marty, I've got two private investigators at my house, claiming Brandon Cross hired them to prove I framed him. You might want to come over. On my way. I hung up and smiled at the two men. My friend Marty Sullivan will be here in 5 minutes. He's also a private investigator, and he has some very interesting recordings of Brandon discussing his billing practices. I think you'll find them educational. The taller investigator's confidence wavered slightly. Mr. Rourke, we're just trying to get to the truth here. The truth? The truth is that Brandon Cross stole company money to finance an affair with my wife. The truth is that my wife's sister abused her position to help them destroy my career. The truth is that they got caught, and now they're desperate. I stepped closer to them. The truth is that you're not real private investigators. You're probably Brandon's college buddies, trying to scare me into backing down. Both men stepped back, their tough guy facade cracking. We should go, the shorter one muttered. Yes, you should. And tell Brandon that if he comes near me or my property again, I'll have him arrested for harassment. I watched them retreat to their car. Oh, and gentlemen, next time you want to impersonate law enforcement officers, you might want to use real badges. They drove away just as Marty pulled up in his pickup truck. Friends of yours? He asked, watching the sedan disappear around the corner. Brandon's getting desperate. He sent a couple of amateurs to try to intimidate me. How'd that work out for them? About as well as you'd expect. I refilled my coffee mug. What's the latest on his legal situation? Not good for him. The DA's office is taking the embezzlement charges seriously, and Morrison Tech is cooperating fully. They want to make an example of him. Marty sat down on my porch steps. There's something else, though. Lila's been trying to hire a divorce attorney. Let me guess, no one will take her case. Jerry's been busy. Turns out he knows every decent divorce lawyer in the city, and he's made sure they all understand the situation. Conflict of interest, he calls it. That seems excessive. Does it? After what she tried to do to you? Marty's expression grew serious. Evan, these people destroyed your marriage, your job, and nearly your entire life. They showed you no mercy. Why should you show them any? He had a point. Lila and her conspirators had planned to leave me with nothing. No job, no money, no future. They'd calculated every move, anticipated every reaction, planned for every contingency except one, that I might be smarter than they thought. What about Danielle? Blacklisted in the HR community. Word travels fast in that business, and everyone knows what she did. She's working at a temp agency now, filing papers for minimum wage. And Brandon? Trial's set for next month. If convicted, he's looking at 2 to 5 years for embezzlement, plus civil penalties. Marty grinned. Jerry's representing Morrison Tech in the civil case. They're going after everything Brandon owns. His BMW? Repossessed yesterday. Turns out he was 3 months behind on payments. I felt a deep satisfaction settle in my chest. Justice, served cold and methodical. My phone rang. The caller ID showed Lila's number. Should I answer it? Put it on speaker, Marty suggested. This should be entertaining. Hello, Lila. Evan, please, we need to talk. Her voice was strained, desperate. This has gone too far. Has it? I don't think it's gone far enough. I'm sorry, okay? I made mistakes. We both made mistakes. But we can fix this. We? I laughed. There is no we, Lila. You made your choice when you decided to cheat on me with Brandon Cross. You made your choice when you conspired with your sister to destroy my career. You made your choice when you planned to take everything I'd worked for. I never wanted to hurt you. Of course you did. That was the entire point. I watched a neighbor walking her dog, waving cheerfully as she passed. Normal life, continuing around us while my marriage burned to ashes. You wanted to hurt me so badly that you'd be free to start over with Brandon. How's that working out for you now? Brandon's in jail. Yes, he is. Funny how embezzling company funds will do that to a person. You destroyed him. You destroyed all of us. No, Lila, you destroyed yourselves. I just made sure everyone could see it clearly. I paused, choosing my words carefully. Did you really think you could plan my destruction in public places, leave evidence trails, and commit felonies without consequences? What do you want from me? Nothing. I want absolutely nothing from you, which is exactly what you were planning to leave me with. I stood up and walked to the edge of my porch. I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to experience the same fear and helplessness you were planning to inflict on me. Please, Evan, I'll do anything. There's nothing you can do. The divorce papers are filed. The settlement is final, and your boyfriend is going to prison. It's over. I hung up and turned off my phone. That was cold, Marty observed. That was justice. Friday evening, Vera's bar was packed with Morrison Tech employees celebrating